a topic which has also always been fascinating and intriguing me. Even before I met the devotees, I was working in a medical field and sometimes I saw people dying, and I was always intrigued. What is actually taking place there? What's happening there? And what's happening after? And maybe, oops, can you switch this back on again? Thank you. And maybe we can somehow have some influence what happens after death. So these questions were always in my mind, and I always tried to find answers to this. And actually, we can say death is the only thing in life death is the only thing in life which is 100% sure, right? Everything else may happen, may not happen, we don't know. But death, 100% it will happen. And yet, we are so expert in thinking that this will never happen to us. You know, we are expertly keeping ourselves in this illusion that it will never happen to me. To so many others, yes, okay, but never to me. And then when death knocks on our door, oh, so unexpectedly, how could this happen, right? But what is this unexpectedly? You know, it just shows how much we are in this illusion that we will be here forever. So it has to be expected at any time, actually. At any time, we don't know. You know? Yeah, so that's why we can say any intelligent person in this world should actually inquire, you know, what is death all about? What takes place there? And how to prepare? This should be on any human being's mind, actually. You know? Yeah, and then on my long search and journey, I finally met the devotees in Australia. And as soon as I read Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, so many powerful verses there, right? And so on. Yeah, so, and that really created a big impact in me. And finally, I had found so many answers, you know. Yeah, so we can say, and let me give you a little outlook what I would like to try and present. The part 1, I would like to share all different things about death and then see if we have questions for discussion. And then I would like to also present some principles and tools how to more deeply prepare. Yes, so that's what I'm hoping to get across. Maybe I should show you that I do have a new book on this topic exactly, Meeting Death with Joy. That's a subtitle. So yeah, it's enough, you know, to write a whole book on. But here we have only 1.5 hours or something. So it will simply be a little summary, and I'm hoping that maybe it catches your interest to actually get the book, because there is just so much more in what we can discuss in this 1.5 hours. You know. Yeah, so, you know, we make so many arrangements to live happily and joyfully, but actually we should make arrangements to die happily and joyfully, actually. And basically we can say this is what Krishna consciousness is all about, actually. So if we accept a lifestyle to prepare for death, then we are not only dying nicely, but we are also living nicely too, right? most joyful way of life, as we can experience here with so many nice festivals. But yeah, if we only concentrate on trying to live nicely, then we neither live nicely nor we die nicely, and we're missing out, actually. You know? Yes. Yes. So one interesting point I want to begin with is that actually a devotee and a non-devotee has a very different outlook and approach to this topic of death, right? Very different. For non-devotee, it is the most unwanted, the most horrifying, the most ghastly moment, death, right? Very fearful. But for devotee, actually it is not. It is not. It actually depends, of course, on how much we have confronted ourselves with this topic and prepared. But if we have prepared a little bit, then death becomes the most glorious moment when we can get on the plane back home, back to Godhead. Yes, it's actually a joyful moment. Yes. There is a nice statement in the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam, where Prabhupada in the purport, he says the following: because a devotee rigidly follows the instructions of Narada Muni, he has no fear of old age, disease, or death. Apparently, a devotee may grow old, but he is not subjected to the symptoms of defeat experienced by a common man in old age. That's the whole thing. You know, a non-devotee experiences old age as defeat. I am defeated. Consequently, old age does not make a devotee fearful of death, as a common man is fearful of death. A devotee knows that after death he is going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing a devotee, advanced age helps him to become fearless and thus happy. Wow. So, meeting death with joy. Yes. So, materialist and devotee, very different approaches to this topic. And of course we can say, you know, in a more neophyte stage, we may all be fearful and not so keen to meet that moment, but then we are meant to transform, right? So the whole process of bhakti is actually all about transformation. We want to transform our likes and dislikes, our tastes, worldviews, patterns of behaviors, ultimately our very heart, so that bhakti can grow there. So, and also these different attitudes in life, and especially towards death, we are meant to transform as we make progress, as we become purified, and especially also as we get more knowledge of this topic. Because fear is always a sign of ignorance. Yeah. If we don't know what happens, then of course we are fearful. But as we confront ourselves with the topic, then we actually realize it's not so horrifying, actually. I've also had that good fortune. I have accompanied quite a few personalities in this very last phase, this last 1 or 2 weeks. Yes, and I have tried to help them to focus and move on. And if you have, and I find this a very sweet service. You know, you have to be a little off the bodily platform to look through the externals and this, you know, falling apart body there and really see the soul there, the same personality is there as it was before when the person was young and healthy. So if we have a little bit that vision, then to accompany a person in this final stage can be very sweet, because you can connect from soul to soul. All other things become so insignificant and unimportant. And you can connect from soul to soul and really try to help them to focus and let go of all the last attachments. And yeah, it can be very sweet and deep and intimate, you know. So I'm already thinking one day when I'm getting too old and tired to constantly travel, I would like to get more into the service of really being there for devotees who are about to leave. Because we can say, what's the use of all our preaching endeavors, you know? If at this final phase we cannot be there for a person and give the right guidance, the right advice, the right support. All our spiritual life, we need good association, right? Isn't it? Very much of our development is dependent on our association. And especially in this last phase of life, we need good association, because naturally it's a little bewildering, and if we don't have the right association on our side, somebody, you know, who is not emotional and sentimental, who can really encourage us to let go and get out, you know, then it can be a big struggle. Yeah. So yeah, it's worthwhile confronting ourselves with the whole topic. And then we will realize, especially if we've done this service, we realize it's actually not such a big deal. We've done this all so many times already. We just have forgotten, you know. Yes. We've been through it so many times. So it's just, I like to see death as a mysterious transformation, a journey into another service situation. That's actually what it is, you know. And it's not such a dramatic thing, actually. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So I do want to discuss a little bit what actually takes place. So first of all, we may all know the soul is covered by the gross body, made from earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? So then there's the subtle body of mind, intelligence, thoughts, ego. Is there anybody who can translate for Kishori Kund Mataji? Shamasundri? This is very kind of you. Thank you. Gut, haben wir ja jemanden gefunden, der übersetzen kann. Good. Yes, so there's the subtle body, mind, intelligence, thoughts, ego, and the subtle body takes the soul. You know, the soul leaves behind this dead and useless shell of the gross body and travels on the subtle body to the next destination. Yeah. And depending on the composition of the subtle body, meaning the attachments, the desires, the impressions in the mind especially, and then, of course, all the previous activities, you know, whatever karma we have accumulated, that all determines our next destination. So, and to get out of this material world, not to come back again, the subtle body of mind, intelligence, thoughts, ego has to be fully transformed and spiritualized. All the material impressions and desires and attachments, they have to be replaced with spiritual impressions, spiritual desires, spiritual attachments. So the mind has to be completely transformed. You know, Intelligence also completely spiritualized. False ego has to be transformed into the real ego, that we give up all the different designations. I'm woman, I'm man, I'm German, I'm Russian, I'm Indian. You know, all these things have to be cleared off, that we only identify with Jiva Supa Krishna Nityadas. I am eternal servant. Servant, that's all I am. All I want to do is serve. You know? So this is quite a task, you know, to transform the whole subtle body. Not so easy. I dare say for most personalities, it may be a journey over several lifetimes. Yeah. Because very easily we take this Krishna consciousness in a very external way. You know, just going externally through the motions, just blabbering something there with our bead bag and just getting the rounds done. And somehow first initiation, second initiation, or maybe now I have some position, you know, or now I have 50,000 followers on Facebook. So it's all the externals, right? But internally, we may not even do much work there. Yes, yes. But bhakti is all about transforming the internals. Yes. So, and if we are mainly concentrating on the externals, and we think, you know, Krishna consciousness is just jolly kirtan, good prasadam, having a great time, but everything else stays as it is, you know, then we may just not make it back in one lifetime, you know. Yeah, that's basically my humble realization, you know. Yes. Yes, so now I like to see death as the test. Which relationship is most dear to us? That's actually what it's all about. You know, in 8th chapter, 5th verse, Bhagavad Gita, Antakale chamameva asmahan muktvakale. So Krishna says, if you remember me alone, then you reach my divine abode. Of this there's no doubt. So to remember Krishna alone, this is not so easy. This is difficult. This is a challenge. To remember Krishna alone. You know, Krishna is not saying, if you remember me and your husband, your wife, your granddaughter, your dog, your cat. No, it's Krishna alone. So that means we are tested which relationship is most important to us. Is it with Krishna? Is that the dearmost personality in my life? Or is there anybody or anything which is more important than Krishna? Well, and if there is, then we have to come back and finish this more important business. You know? Yeah, that's basically what it is. Yeah. And we can see that actually the whole process of Krishna consciousness is really targeting the subtle body, actually. You know? That's why Krishna always says, fix your mind on me, always remember me, always worship me. You know, this is all directed towards transforming the subtle body, spiritualizing it. That's why it's also so beneficial to have all these powerful spiritual experiences, you know, to go on festivals, on parikrama, on retreats. You know, the more we can flood our mind with spiritual experiences that will replace all the mundane experiences of sense gratification. You know, once you've practiced for a few years, then your non-devotee life completely fades in the background. It becomes so far away as if it was previous lifetime, right? Some of you may have that experience, you know. So the more we can expose ourselves, you know, with spiritual, powerful spiritual experiences, that immensely helps to transform the subtle body, Yes. Yeah, so that's basically the test, which relationship is most dear to us. So, and there is a nice purport in the Bhagavatam where Prabhupada says, actually we do not die, because as we know, the soul does not die. And all that happens is that we simply enter some inert, unconscious state, like some deep sleep. And then it all starts again, and, some new body. So that's all it is, The soul simply goes into a state of sleep and unconsciousness, and then we start all over again our activities. And we can compare this to different phenomena in nature. For example, the Winterschlaf, for those who speak German, in wintertime, some animals, they hibernate, they go into hiding, like the hedgehog, the eagle, the spiky little fella. So they hide somewhere in the forest underneath a whole heap of wood, and it's quite amazing. They survive with 4 or 5 months, no drinking, no eating, right? Yeah, this is almost a miracle. We can't do that, but they can. They just hide and go into a deep unconscious state, and then when springtime comes, they get all active again. So, all right, the soul stays in the same body, right? But still, that can be compared to what we go through when we leave our body. We simply enter a deep, inert, inactive, sleeping state, and then we start all up again. Or even in the plants in the winter season, they drop the leaves, the trees, they look dead. They look dead, but they're not dead. Actually, the life force withdraws into the roots, because there it's cooler, warmer, So, and the life force is simply waiting there in some sleeping condition, and the tree looks completely lifeless and dead. No growth, no fruits, no flowers, no leaves. But then springtime comes all back to life. So yeah, these are all. We can also see the caterpillar, the Raupe, which leaves behind the dead, dried out caterpillar shell and flies off as a beautiful butterfly. So we have this mysterious transformation in all kinds of forms actually in life, in nature. And that we can compare to what we go through when we so-called die. Yes. Yeah, so it's not such a horrifying thing once you get some knowledge what takes place and how it all works. And yeah, all right. So it's some mysterious transformation, some journey into an unknown service situation. I think of that we can all be completely sure that even if we don't make it back to Godhead in this life, we will again have the opportunity to serve the Lord and His devotees. So it's simply a journey into a different service situation. If you see it like that, it can also be pretty exciting, Yes, so let's see where the journey goes, Yeah, I'm kind of curious how it will all go, Yes, and as you get older, I've had 2 times cancer already, so that's why it's one of my favorite topics. Yes. Yeah, and they were very valuable experiences in my life. I would not want to miss them. They have really transformed my spiritual practice, my outlook on life. I'm sharing quite a bit also in this book, if I may promote it a little bit. Yeah, so it really, you get a few realizations when you stand a little closer to the edge, and since then, I'm almost thinking every day about it, that my days are numbered. I have, the time is ticking. Well, it's for everybody, not only for me. But if you get a bit of a warning, you become more conscious of it, especially as you get older, and you realize the time is ticking. Let me make use out of every moment I have to really pass this test. Yes. I mean, it's like at school, some students, they don't worry about the exams, and then 2 days before they get all panicking, but more intelligent is to prepare a little early, and then you actually you look forward to go into the exam because you prepared, and you want to apply what you learned, right? And, you're not afraid, And similar there also with death. If we confront ourselves, we prepare, and we know what's happening, and then it doesn't become so fearful. So now one interesting thing, I have to look a little bit at the time. One interesting thing is to remember. Can you ladies keep the talking a little down? Please, thank you. One interesting thing is that to remember Krishna is actually not in our hands. It's not in our control. We have a Bhagavad Gita verse, Sarvasya Mridi Sanavisto, Matasmita Jnanam Purnam Cha. So Krishna says, from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So actually, it's up to Krishna. And I remember when I just took up Krishna consciousness in Australia 40 years ago, I had, after 6 months of being in the ashram, I had to do some little surgery, some surgical intervention, nothing drastic and life-threatening. But I had to have a full anesthesia. And I had heard we should remember Krishna at the moment of death. So I thought, okay, let me test this. Let me try and remember Krishna just at that moment when I fall unconscious. And then when I woke up again, I was shocked to realize that I didn't remember Krishna at that moment. And that was my first realization. Not so easy to remember Krishna. If at a moment when it's not so bewildering, when you're just put asleep and you can't remember Krishna then, what to speak of when you're facing death? So that was, my first realization. And then I have another example of one lady in Ukraine, who I was very involved there before the war started. And she has been practicing for many years, at least 20, 25 years, seriously practicing. And then she had a stroke. And she was paralyzed right side, which means left side of the brain is damaged, which means speech and memory are lost. I used to work as a physiotherapist, so I used to treat these people. So everything was wiped out. She could not remember a single word of her language. She didn't know her name. Nothing. It was all like deleted. Yeah, all gone, completely. She couldn't say anything. Didn't know where she was, which country or nothing. So, and then gradually it came back. The brain has quite some capacity to recover. So it came back, and when I met her, I asked her, So what was it like? It must have been quite an amazing feeling when you cannot even remember your name, you cannot say a single word in your language. So what was it like? And she gave an amazing answer. She said, yeah, it was quite something. But one thing I remembered, the Maha Mantra. And I simply chanted in my mind. And I knew everything would be okay. Yes. And I mean, from medical point of view, this cannot be explained. How a person cannot remember their own name. Right? You cannot remember your name. You cannot say a single word in your mother language, but you remember the Maha Mantra. My God. Obviously, this is Krishna. Cannot be explained with any mundane or medical explanation. So yeah, these are examples how Krishna appears on the level of the mind if a person has been seriously practicing, you know. And there's another example like that. One Prabhupada disciple, Mother Isha, she left her body meanwhile in America. She was a little older than this Mataji. She's had same thing, stroke, right side paralyzed, you know, and memory and speech was completely lost. But because she was a little elderly, it didn't come back. Same thing. All she remembered was the Maha Mantra. And she was constantly singing it. And unfortunately, she had to be admitted into some non-devotee nursing home because nobody could take care of her. But she was the whole day singing kirtan through the corridors of the nursing home. So people knew her, oh yeah, the lady who sings this Hare Krishna song, yeah, she is in room so-and-so, you know. Everybody knew her. And that's all she could say, just the Maha Mantra. And then the funny thing was, His Holiness Naranjana Swami, he knew her well because she was in Boston Temple when he joined as a bhakta there. And he felt very sorry that she ended up in this nursing home. So then one day he took the time and effort to actually visit her, you know. And he traveled several hours, 3-4 hours by car to visit her. And then first he was a little disappointed because she didn't recognize him, you know. And he was saying, oh, remember Naranjan, you remember me? But she couldn't recognize anybody. And she constantly was chanting the Maha Mantra. And Maharaj is telling the story in a class. And then he was saying, actually, I realized whether she remembers me or not, it doesn't matter. Main thing is she remembers the Maha Mantra. So that's the main thing. So she achieved, you know, what she needed to have. Yes, and then she eventually left her body. And yeah, but until then, she was just non-stop chanting the Maha Mantra. And you can almost say that what we think is a big calamity, oh my God, a stroke, oh, lost our memory and speech, oh my God. But you can also see it as a blessing. Krishna simply wiped out all the nonsense of our whole life. All remembers the Maha Mantra. And we chant the Maha Mantra all day and then eventually leave. You know, so Krishna has almost his joking ways, how he arranges for this person to leave and that person to leave. And we think, oh, such a drama, such a calamity. But actually, you know, when we look a little deeper, we think, no, every calamity can be turned around and made into a golden opportunity, you know. Yes. Yeah, so remembrance is not up to us. It's not in our hands. We can, you know, try our best to absorb the mind and serve and chant and hear and ultimately develop bhakti. But then it is up to Krishna to actually appear on the level of our mind. And in this regard, I have a nice quote here. These are some course materials which I give in Mayapur. Yes, because often the question may come up, well, but what happens if due to external situations and circumstances we can't remember Krishna, we can't focus, right? That question often comes up. So there is a very nice verse in purport. This is 11th canto, 7th chapter, verse 6. So there in the purport, it's not Prabhupada anymore, obviously, 11th canto, there it says, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, those great souls who have surrendered unto me, meaning Krishna, not Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, surrender unto me, are always equipped with transcendental knowledge and detachment from the material world. Sometimes, being busy in their devotional service, they may appear to forget me. However, a pure devotee who has achieved the platform of love for me will always be protected by such sincere devotion. Even if such a devotee should suddenly give up his life while neglecting to fix his mind intensely on me, such a devotee's loving feelings are so powerful that they afford him all protection. Even if there is a temporary moment of forgetfulness, such devotion will bring the devotee to my lotus feet, which are beyond the vision of ordinary materialistic persons. Yeah, that's basically the rest we can skip. Yeah, so very nicely explained that ultimately it is a question of relationship. It's a question of devotion, of cultivating a loving relationship. So, and if this loving devotion, relationship in devotion is there, then Krishna will do the needful, you know, because Krishna is a person. So, and if there's really a loving connection there, then of course he will somehow do the needful and appear there if there is some temporary forgetfulness or due to external situations not being able to fix one's mind on him. But you know, we have to remember we cannot use that as an excuse, thinking, just see, you know, Krishna will do the needful, and I'm a nice devotee, I'm serving and chanting, and yeah, Krishna will do everything. No. We have to endeavor to really cultivate this loving relationship and devotion, deep devotion to the Lord. Meaning, Krishna has to be the main and most important personality in our life, you know? Yeah. But interesting to understand, you know? Yes, so just to illustrate the laws of reincarnation, how they really take place, I do want to quickly touch upon the story. You may have heard it or maybe not. Have you heard the story of Raghava? Prabhupada disciple Raghava? No? Okay, well, looks like it's a new story then for you. So, when Prabhupada was in this world, he had a disciple called Raghava Das. He was a brahmachari, British body, living in London. And he was going during the week on book distribution and Harinam. And on the weekends, he used to serve in the kitchen. So and one day, it so happened that on the way back from Harinam, they had a car accident. And Raghava left his body. So, and of course, the devotees were shocked and a bit disturbed and bewildered. And they wrote a letter to Prabhupada. Raghava left his body. So Prabhupada said, yeah, okay, conduct a memorial celebration. And he said he will continue in his next life. Prabhupada was not bewildered. He could see, the body was simply becoming useless due to external influence, accident. No problem. Leaves the old and useless body, like nice analogy in Bhagavad Gita also. We leave behind the old and useless clothes, right? 222 in the Bhagavad Gita. And we accept a new set of dress, right? That's actually what happens. We all have that experience. We may wear some pants, some sari, and we get to the point, chuck it out. No use anymore to keep it and fix it and stitch it up. So let's get a new one. Or with a car, we drive cars, and all right, we are dutifully repairing it, service it. Then this breaks down, that breaks down, another thing breaks down. So then at a certain point you say, forget it, let's get rid of it, and get a new one. So that's basically what happens. So Prabhupada had that vision, and therefore he was completely cool and not bewildered and disturbed. So now it indeed happened so that the soul, which was in Raghavadasa's body, took birth in an Indian Mataji's body, also in London. Her name is Ratnavali Devi Dasi. She is a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Churu Swami Maharaj, who is unfortunately not with us anymore. Yeah, so if you Google Raghava and Ratnavali, you get the whole story, but please not now, okay? Yes, so, and through astrology you can prove that this is the same soul. Yeah. Don't ask me how. I'm not an astrologer, but there's a whole big, long discussion and explanation there on the internet. Yeah, so, and also Ratnavali often has some dreams where she remembers certain episodes from Raghava's life, So sometimes we may also have the same dreams coming again and again. Very often they indicate some activities in previous life, because we carry the same subtle body with us. And the mind, intelligence for the ego, you can imagine it like a computer chip with so much information, so many impressions from so many lifetimes. My God, and so many things are coming up in dreams or in different, luggage we are carrying with us. And this is often for many lifetimes. So yeah, Ratnavali, she had these dreams when she was in Raghava's body. And also, in Bhaktivedanta manner, there's still now many Prabhupada disciples who knew Raghava. I actually, on my last visit, I met the driver who had the car accident. He didn't leave his body and he's still in Krishna consciousness. So I was talking to him a bit about this whole thing, So in any case, whenever Ratnavali meets some Prabhupada disciples who knew Raghava, she also has that feeling, we click, we connect. It almost feels like we know each other for ages, and we may also have that experience that we meet somebody and immediately we click and we feel like we knew each other for 30 years or something, right? Yes. So this can very well indicate previous life that we were having some connection there. Yeah, so in any case, also in London, there's one devotee who knows the art to put people under hypnosis. And under hypnosis, they can lead you to regression, to remember your previous life. So Ratnavali Mataji did this, and she remembered her previous life, as Raghava. So in any case, meanwhile, it's an established fact that Ratnavali was Raghava in his previous life. So now when Bhakti Swami Maharaj heard the story, he asked her a question. What do you think he would ask? What would be the most obvious thing to ask? What's the most obvious thing to ask? Considering that, Raghava was in a British man's body and Ratnavali Mataji is in an Indian Mataji's body. So, what's the most obvious thing to ask? Huh? What were you thinking of? What the hell happened? How did you end up in this body? What happened? Right? Yeah, most obvious thing to ask. So, and Ratnavali Mataji was researching this a little bit. So she was asking different devotees who knew Raghava. So, and then they remembered, oh yes, when he came back to serve on the weekends in the kitchen, there was an Indian Mataji serving there in the kitchen. So now some of you are smiling, you're thinking, oh, he must have had a love affair or some attraction or something. But no, Raghava was a very strict brahmachari, he was in saffron, he didn't get involved with women. But there was always some tension there, some quarreling. Yes, some little tension and quarreling. And that was enough for Raghava to come back one more lifetime in an Indian Mataji's body. Yeah. So this is one thing which we often don't remember, that not only our attraction has to be worked through and given up, but our aversions too. Yes. We have the saying, attraction and aversion are the two sides of the same coin, right? I'm sure you've heard that. So that's how it goes. Because if we are averse towards something, this is also based on a certain attachment. The attachment of being averse. It's also a material attachment. It also occupies some space in the mundane mind, right? If we are averse, towards something. Yeah. So this also has to be given up. Yeah. Wow. When I heard this story about 20 years ago first time, it really hit me, It really struck me, and it really brings the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to life, that yes, this is how it works. Whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. Whether you are devotee or Muslim or Christian or whatever you may be, that's how it's going to happen, whether you believe it or not. Yeah, so I guess I'm pretty safe to say this. We don't have any brahmacharis here. But sometimes people try to keep themselves in the brahmachari ashram by developing an aversion towards women. Not the solution. Yeah. Because, we know Kali Yuga, Western world, the atmosphere is full of agitation and then often a man may think, the only way how he can maintain brahmachari life if he convinces his mind the women are all Maya and they're all stupid and this and that and this and that, and develop an aversion. Well, most likely, next life in a woman's body. That's our destination. Yes. Raghava was demonstrating it, Yes, yes. So that's not the solution, The dislikes and aversions have to be given up and worked through, So now, a couple more interesting things. One thing is, Ratnavali was born with some birthmarks. She has a birthmark on her forehead and a birthmark across her belly. And again, when I was working as a physiotherapist here in Germany, for some time I was working with early born babies. You can treat them over reflexes and help their development and others. And I saw some babies have birthmarks, some don't. And I was already then thinking, can't be coincidence. There must be some reason for it, right? Yes. So I remember I asked the senior professor, because we were just standing there in front of the babies, and I pointed and I said, why does this baby have birthmarks? And he was giving me this answer. Babies have these things. Nobody knows. That was his answer. But we can give a better answer, right? So why do babies have these things? What do you think? Why did Ratnavali have these birthmarks?
Because it's a mark from the previous life. The time of death.
The accident. The accident. The birthmarks are exactly where Raghava had the traumas. On the head, on the belly. Exactly. I asked Ratnavali Mataji if I can put the story in the book, and she gave me permission. And she offered to send me the post-mortem, the whole story there, the medical report. But I said, no need, I don't want to go that far. But yeah, she confirmed that according to the medical report at the moment of death, Raghava's injuries are exactly where Ratnavali has the birthmarks. And it's very clear. When we leave with this traumatic impact of an accident, then the mind thinks, oh, my head, oh, my belly, the shock, the impact, and the subtle body takes these impressions to the next womb, to the next embryo. And already in the mother's womb, these impressions are there in the mind. And they develop already in the womb as birthmarks. Amazing, isn't it? Yeah, that's a medical proof how the soul transmigrates, on the subtle body into the next destination. Medical proof. Wow. And I mean, not only we devotees understand this, meanwhile, there has been some medical research. I forgot his name. Yeah, exactly. That's his name. So he took quite a few cases there in the Eastern world, where people have that understanding that there's more than one life, and he, traced it all back, and so he wrote a whole thing about it, Yes. But very powerful. And another thing, I saw some pictures of Ratnavali, of Raghava, and of that Indian Mataji who served in the kitchen. By the way, Ratnavali also was visiting her, but she's not telling much about this meeting. But it must be pretty interesting, when you meet the person who you were averse to in your previous life, and and because of this aversion, you're back now in an Indian Mataji's body. So in any case, when I looked at the pictures, I couldn't help but smiling to myself. So I'm sure you all guess why I was smiling. They look like each other. So Ratnavali has some facial features of Raghava in her, but also then of that Indian Mataji. It's a mixture. You can see it. Ah, hilarious. So, why do you think does Ratnavali have some features of Raghava? Any idea on that? Yeah?
Because the mind of a person is also in the face, and the mind is what moves forward. The sun body moves forward. And sometimes also gestures and mimics and different things like that.
Yeah, well, basically, I think you mean what I want to hear. That we are all identifying with our facial features the most, right? Yes, every day, so many times we look in the mirror, oh yeah, I'm getting old, oh yeah, I'm very handsome, very beautiful, this, that. I mean, with no other part of the body are we identifying more than the face. That's the thing. We're so attached to the face, right? When something happens on the foot, no problem. But when something happens in the face, oh my God, people get, very mental and insecure and, oh my God, because there's so much identifying with the face. Yeah. So that's why Ratnavali has some features of Raghava, because we are also identifying with our face, and some features of that Indian Mataji who he was averse to. Yeah. So, whatever facial features we have here, this is not a coincidence, this is a mixture of our previous lives' facial features and somebody who we were either attached or averse to. Yeah. So that's how it goes. And I mean, especially we can say, especially in the human form of life, I think it is rather amazing how Krishna arranges it, that practically everybody looks very differently, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, very rare to find two people who look exactly the same, unless they're one-eyed twins or something, But, yeah, everybody looks different, even though there's trillions of people in this world. But still, Krishna never runs out of ideas to make everybody look completely different. So, and that deepens the bodily identification, If we would all look the same, then we would not think, oh, I'm so special, my nose is like this, and my eyes, and this and that, And in other species of life, the ants, I don't think every single ant looks so uniquely different, at least not to me. They all look pretty much the same, But human form of life, so different. Just to deepen, just to make the whole game of going back to Godhead just a touch more difficult and more tricky, through this identification, Yes. Also, before I ask for questions, let me also express this one thing, a couple of things, that actually we can say our fear of death is also a sign that our relationship with Krishna is almost hardly at all developed. That's why we are fearful of death. And as our relationship with Krishna becomes tangible reality, we will lose our fear. Because then death will definitely be that glorious moment when we can finally go to him. He's been waiting for us for so many lifetimes. So why staying here by hook or by crook just for 1 or 2 more years or whatever, right? So it is all a question of our relationship with Krishna. if that is deeply established and tangible reality of our life, then proportionally our fear will diminish. And another nice point is, Prabhupada was giving this nice analogy, saying life in the material world is like a nonsensical stage performance. I really like that one. That's really what it is. A nonsensical stage performance. A crazy circus. Each lifetime we can view as a performance on the stage, right? So, one life in a German man's body. Oh, I'm so busy. I have so many important things to do. Running, running, running. Busy, busy, busy. So, and then death comes. Curtain closes. Show is over. It's all finished. It's all finished. And then curtain opens again. And next nonsensical stage performance, part 2, you know. And then maybe next life in an Indian Mataji's body. And again, running, running, running. So busy, so many important things to do. Oh, I'm so busy. And again, curtain closes, show is over. You know, and that's how it goes, lifetime after lifetime. And all the things which we take to be so important now in our life, you know, our job, our family, this, our house, our car, paying off the mortgage, this, that, this, that, this, that. At the moment of death, no significance whatsoever. No significance. It's all part of the nonsensical stage performance. It's a very flickering, temporary reality, you know. Actual reality, eternal reality is my relationship with Krishna. That's eternal reality. That's the only thing we're allowed to keep. There's a nice statement in one of the Upanishads that the wealth of a person who is just about to leave this world is religion, his connection with God. That's his only wealth, his true wealth. Yeah. Anything else, Krishna mercilessly pulls away from us. We have to leave it all behind. Show is over. Good to remember this every now and again. Yes. That all these things, I mean, I often make these 2 steps back and I ask myself, is this still important at the moment of death? And I realize, no importance whatsoever. Okay, thank God. It's just part of the crazy circus, you know. So actually we can say Krishna consciousness should bring about a transformation of what we perceive as reality, right? Yes. In our more neophyte stage, we think the crazy circus is reality, right? And then as we become deeper and more mature in our spiritual life, our whole perception of reality changes. And this becomes the crazy circus. And actual eternal reality is my relationship with Krishna. What's happening in the spiritual world? Chanting the holy name, connecting, calling out to the Lord, and. That's eternal reality. Yeah, so it's a whole gradual shift of reality, you know? And proportionally, as we transform, our fear of death will reduce, you know? Yes. All right, so let me see. There is still, I mean, I don't know how, how eager you are, how long to continue. I mean, after this year, it will be nothing more here, you know, so I can talk for a long time. And as long as I have an audience who is eager to hear, I can continue. But I mean, it's only 12. We have only done 1 hour. So let me see if up to this point there is some questions. Just about what we discussed, because I do want to touch at least on a few important things in regards to preparing for death. So, but until now, do we have a question? Yes, there is one in the back. Okay, let's start with one, because if you say both, I then can't remember the first one.
That the person needed to be put into an asylum, in a karmic asylum or something like that.
Yeah.
So, or being a burden for your family, or
Yeah.
not having devotees around you to visit you or something.
Yeah.
So, what happened? Maybe you don't have that very deep love for Krishna, that even if you don't remember, your love will bring you to him. Maybe you're not yet at this stage, but you've reached a certain point when you are in a difficult situation.
Yeah.
How to overcome that fear?
Okay. Well, let me give part one as an answer, which relates to your topic and which I do wanted to mention, but I forgot. What people often say is they are afraid of the pain. You know, it connects a little bit, being incapacitated. Many people say, I'm not afraid of death in itself, but all the pain that comes along with it. All right? Let me start there, and then I will hopefully say a few other things about the other points. So that is also a very interesting point, because pain is an experience on the platform of the mind. And the mind works in such a way that if we strongly focus the mind on something higher, we can actually overcome the level of pain. And I want to share a very insignificant little example from my humble self. As a teenager, which is quite a while ago, I was playing in a handball team, and I was the goalkeeper because I'm tall. And in one match, I broke my little finger. It still got some little lump there to the side. And I had gloves on, and I didn't see. I could feel the crack. Oh my God. But the finger actually stood in almost 90 degrees angle to the side, you know. It was completely dislocated. But because my mind was so focused on the game, we were playing an exciting game against some other city in Germany, you know. So for us young handball people, it was a challenge. And I was so focused on winning the game, which we did, that I continued playing with this broken finger for another half an hour. And I did not feel any pain whatsoever, because my mind was fixed on something else. And only when the game was over and I took my gloves off and I saw this finger, oh, that's when the pain hit. You know? Yeah. And that's a well-known way how, you know, the level of pain can be overcome. There's other examples, you know, a mother may be herself injured, but she is fighting to save her child. She doesn't feel any pain of her own injuries. Her mind is fixed on, I have to save my child. She can, you know, develop all kinds of unknown forces and powers and pain. She doesn't care, you know, because the mind is fixed on something else. So, death is not only the test which relationship is most dear and important to us, but it is also a test how much we can fix the mind on Krishna and absorb the mind on Krishna. So, if I don't feel any pain by being absorbed in the handball match, so if we are absorbed strongly in Krishna, we can overcome the level of pain. And you may have heard of His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj, when he left his body. Radha Swami was the last 5 or 6 weeks with him. He gave a 5-hour Sunday feast lecture after Maharaj had passed away, and shared all these experiences. If you get a chance, you have to listen to this lecture. It's quite amazing. And there he shares how Bhakti Tirtha Swami and Radha Swami, they were so absorbed in reading and discussing Chaitanya Charitamrita. At some stage, Bhakti Tirtha Swami was saying, we are not reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, we are entering Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he was so in bliss, even though he was in such a fragile and emaciated condition. He had already one leg amputated, and the cancer was all up his spine and everywhere else. And he was so skinny. He must have been in so much pain. But Maharaj completely conquered over that. Completely. And he was in bliss. And he was exclaiming, life cannot be better than this. For nothing in the world would I want to exchange my present situation for another one. Yes, that's what he was saying. He was in bliss. Even the doctors were amazed. How can a person be so ecstatic who is in that crucial, situation of final stage of cancer? They couldn't believe it, So that is the test, how much we can conquer over the bodily platform and be intensely absorbed in, remembering and hearing the glories of the Lord and His pastimes. And then we can conquer over the level of pain and discomforts. But again, we need good association. Yeah, that's the key. If we are there all alone, then it becomes tough, Good association. And Radha Swami was so merciful to give his association, He cancelled all his preaching programs and spent the time with Bhakti Tirtha Swami, whatever it would take until he was ready to go, Yes. Yeah, so, that's also the test. So we can look at ourselves. We may be sick and, so difficult to chant. I can't chant my rounds. Well, no, we should especially take shelter and absorb ourselves, call out to Krishna and use these situations to prepare, to practice, because yes, so death, Krishna may give us some, challenging situation there. And of course, we may also have to burn up the last bit of karma, That's also one reason why sometimes we have to go through some suffering. And, old age and disease also has this highly purifying effect, because it really crushes the false ego and grinds it to dust, really. All our hopes and are smashed to control and enjoy. With the body is falling apart, we are losing control. This is such a humbling journey. My God. But Krishna has perfectly designed the whole journey, to prepare us for death. If we use all these challenges to really take shelter of Krishna and become more serious, and that requires lifelong cultivation. We can't think that, now I'm young, I take it easy, and then when I'm older, then I get serious or something. No, Yes. Did this answer a little bit your question? Not really? Okay, let's hear what else you have to ask.
The idea was that you mentioned we need good association
Yeah.
to focus our mind.
Yeah.
And the question is precisely this. The fear of not having this. Like, what if we end up with
Okay.
Alzheimer in a mental institution
Okay.
by karmis? And
Okay.
we go to the
Okay.
This is the fear that
Okay. Well, especially when we are getting closer to the age of 50, I always give devotees that advice. Reflect in which community you want to leave your body one day. And go there and serve. Become an active member of that community. And like that, we become dear to the devotees. The devotees will be indebted to us. Care is based on personal relationship. So if we develop personal relationships based on serving each other, serving together, opening our hearts, revealing our minds, 6 loving exchanges by Rupa Goswami, then the care will come. But it's a matter of cultivation, If we live far away from the next temple, and we do our own thing, we want to be independent, and then gradually old age comes and we're sitting there in our house, we cannot expect that anybody will come and care for us and give us association. No, it's up to us to make plans, And especially when we are facing old age, especially when we're, heading towards that. But even in young age, so many things can happen. So to be an active part of a dynamic community, this gives protection. This gives care. Hopefully. In some parts of the world more than others. You can say the more west you go, the more the standard of life goes up, and maybe the care goes down. Because people are all, into their own thing and my interest and my situation. But then when you go more east, standard of life goes down. And in those countries, people realize more easily that actually, security is based on relationships and not so much on money. You can have, millions of euros in your bank account, but if you don't have any relationships, it will not help you that much. It may be of some little use, but relationships is a better source of security and care. Yes, yeah. And in poor countries, I'm traveling a lot in many poor countries, there I can see the connections are tighter, yeah. So it is, to a large extent, it is really our responsibility to plan our life, especially once we are heading towards 50. Ask yourself, in which community do I want to leave my body one day? And then you reflect and you see, well, some communities, a community in a city may be more difficult to get that care because city life is more passionate, everybody's working, everybody's got their thing, But then rural communities is more in the mode of goodness. There may be, there's more room for care. And also the communities have to build some care committees. Yes. I mean, I do touch upon all these things in that new book I published, Yes. Okay. What else? Okay. Yeah.
And the person we liked or had aversion to.
Yeah.
And also about the birthmarks
Yeah.
And I want to ask about those babies who have, like they are the spitting image of their parents or one of the parents, and they have the exact same birthmark as their parents. What does it mean? They had the same physical incident or what? If they have the exact copy of the birthmark, I don't know, from the mother, for example, and they have their facial features and bodily features as one of the parents, and not somebody else who they were in a previous life, because obviously the parents are not yet dead.
Well, first of all, we have to see whether they're really birthmarks or some other marks which are maybe inherited. So as far as I understand, birthmarks are not inherited. You know, just the fact that the mother has a birthmark doesn't mean the child gets the birthmark. So they're not, definitely not inherited. So birthmarks go back to our previous life when we left that body. You know?
And
So
what do you call the inherited ones?
that's something else, whatever you call them, but not
That's what
birthmarks.
we call them birthmarks. That's what I asked. What I asked.
No, I mean, I don't know the medical differentiations, but birthmarks, you know, they usually look like gunshots, and they're very commonly on the head, you know, because many people die through gunshots in wars and crimes, whatever, you know. So that they are birthmarks, but there may be some other molds or something. That's not a birthmark. So we have to know what is a birthmark, but I don't want to discuss that now, you know. But your other question, why sometimes, you know, a child looks exactly like the father or something, you know. So, of course, the mundane explanation is the genes, right? But the spiritual explanation is, well, they must have had some connection in their previous life, you know? And that's the whole thing. These family attachments are so deep, not so easy to overcome. So very easily it happens like that, you know, people who were born in one family, they take birth again together somewhere, you know. I mean, I met people, you know, married couples. One couple told me, oh, our astrologer told us it's the 7th life we are together. And I said, and how many more do you want to be together? Isn't it enough now? You know, people sometimes think this is a proof of their deep love or something. Oh, so special. 7th life, we are together. Oh my God, we love each other so much. But no, it's just the attachment we didn't manage to overcome, and lifetime after lifetime. So how many more lives do you want to be together? You know, isn't it enough yet? It's time to put an end to it. You know, yes. So this is the reason why people look very much alike. Because in previous life they had some connection, maybe not as father and son, maybe something different, you know, maybe the son was the parent or whatever, you know, I don't know. But that usually is the answer. Yes, yeah, they had some attachment to each other in previous lives, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other question on this topic of death, or shall we continue a little longer? Yes? Yeah, you still can digest more? Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, see, once we become a little more clear what takes place and how we have to remember Krishna alone, it becomes very clear that this last phase of life we really have to dedicate to deepening our Krishna consciousness and letting go of the family relationships. And that's exactly what the vanaprastha ashram is all about. So I didn't want to scare you by by calling the seminar the Vanaprastha ashram, then probably many of you wouldn't even be here, especially the young people. People are so afraid of this. But no, Vanaprastha ashram, this is what this whole book is about. The title is The Vanaprastha ashram, Meeting Death with Joy. It's got the whole chapter on death in it, but part 1 is all about the importance of Vanaprastha ashram. And it's such an important topic, which unfortunately, I call it the forgotten ashram. You know, in ISKCON, it has not been established yet. No. Many people are not even aware of it. Then after family life, there is another ashram we are meant to move on to. Once the kids are grown up, established in life, we should move to the next phase. Yes. And of course, the Bhagavatam is full of very clear and strong instructions. But some of them sound like they're a little too far out, you know. And that's maybe why people think, no, this is not relevant today. Vanaprastha ashram, living in the forest, how can we do this? No forest, too cold in Bavarian forest. You know, what is this? No need. That's what many people think. But no, we extricate the underlying principles and we can apply them wherever we live, whether it's New York or Paris or Prague or wherever it may be. You can live the Vanaprastha ashram. Yes, it's a question of consciousness, of cultivation. I do want to read you this nice purport, which I put on the back of the book. This is from 2nd Canto, 1st chapter, verse 66. Prabhupada says there, to prepare oneself for the better next life, one must get out of one's so-called home. The system of Varnashram Dharma or Sanatan Dharma prescribes retirement from family encumbrances as early as possible after one has passed 50 years of age. And then I'm missing a few parts. And then one is recommended to quit home just to get rid of material attachment, because one who sticks to family life until death cannot get rid of material attachment. And as long as one is materially attached, one cannot understand spiritual freedom. Whew, heavy, heavy, very clear. It's all in the Bhagavatam. There's so many strong statements. And yet, you know, we missed it for 50 years. You know? Yeah, I mean, when you read all these statements, then you ask yourself, how could we miss it? It's all there. Prabhupada says it all. You know? And I'm making this joke because Prabhupada, throughout the Bhagavatam, he says again and again, 50, 50, 50, you know, he hammers it. So I'm saying now ISKCON is 50. So it's time for the Vanaprastha ashram. ISKCON has reached 50. Let's wake up, you know. Yes. So Prabhupada says it very clearly, you know. Or there's so many heavy statements where Prabhupada says, a gentleman, no gentleman will stay in family life until the point of death, because it's suicide, spiritual suicide, if you stay in family life until the point of death, because these family relationships so deep, and to remember Krishna alone, difficult. Yeah. So that's why, you know, Krishna gives us this perfect system, one ashram after the other. It's a perfect system, you know, yes, to gradually give up our independence, you know. We are in this world because we want to be independent from Krishna, of course, you know. That's why often people don't want to marry, because they don't want to give up their independence. Because everybody knows when your wife, your husband, your mother, father, you cannot do what you want to do, you know? Yes. And brahmachari life, you cannot do what you want to do. You have to, brahmachari, true brahmachari cannot even have a bank account, you know, actually. You know, he's fully dependent on the temple, simply serving. That's brahmachari consciousness. And then, all right, grihastha life, we are given a little bit more independence, where we can show how we want to use it. Do we want to misuse it for our sense gratification, or do we want to use it to serve Krishna and the devotees, right? So, and then vanaprastha ashram, even more, we are meant to be dependent on Krishna and his devotees. Yes. So it's a whole journey, you know. So now, I do want to maybe just quickly give a few points of the vanaprastha ashram, just to give you an idea. But yeah, if you get the book, you will get more there, you know. Because even for young folks, even for unmarried people who haven't even gotten married yet, everybody should understand, what is this vanaprastha ashram all about? Because then you plan your life properly. Yes, you know, then as a man, you will not get married when you're 49 and start with babies, when you know there is a vanaprastha ashram there and how important it is. But if you don't know these things, then, oh yeah, let me just be brahmachari until, I really can't do it anymore, you know. And then when people are 48, so often I see it, then when people are 48, they get married. And then they start with babies. And well, that means you will be 70 and you still have to maintain them and, you know, pay for their education and all that. So then you already missed the boat to the vanaprastha ashram. You know, so this knowledge is completely important, because non-devotees, they plan their retirement, right, for their whole life. They're meditating, they're saving up, they're planning how they one more time will enjoy life to the maximum, and they have all their dreams and plans, you know. So, but we devotees, we don't even think about it, you know. We just think we can stay forever in family life. And very often what I observe, not that I'm targeting the ladies here or something, but especially the ladies, when they don't have that training, what happens is that we get all involved with the grandchildren. And we basically start all over with family life with grandchildren. And then the grandchildren become the sole purpose in life. And then, good chance, we remember the granddaughter on our deathbed. And we lament, oh, I didn't see how she got married. And then we may just have to come back just to see that, how the granddaughter gets married, you know. Yes. Yes, so I find this such crucial, important knowledge for everyone of any age, you know, to clearly understand what is this vanaprastha ashram all about. So then we can plan our life. And when we missed the planning, then at least we're trying to help our children to plan properly, or younger devotees to plan properly. So, and that's why, you know, Prabhupada mentions in one purport when people should get married, you know. Ideally, a man should get married when he's 28, 30, not later than that. So then when he's 50, 55, the kids are established, you know. Yeah. So, perfect plan, you know. So, vanaprastha ashram, I mean, there is quite a few things which are important to understand, but let me just quickly share 3 underlying principles. You know, so the basic mood is we simplify. We simplify, simplify, simplify. all for the purpose of deepening our absorption in spiritual life. It's actually a very joyful thing when you finally can do all these things which you could not do while you had kids and work and this and that. You know? Yes, it's something to look forward to. And it's not that husband and wife have to separate. There's so many misconceptions. You know, people think husband puts on saffron and walks out at night, never to be seen again. No, this is not vanaprastha ashram. There's many purports where Prabhupada says the husband can have his wife ongoingly as his assistant. Yes, yes, it's something we do together. Yeah. And there's so many different versions. You know, it can be husband and wife, travel, come back, travel a little longer, come back. Go to India for 3-6 months, come back. So you come and go. You have to leave your cozy home. Very important, you know? Yeah, yeah. The cozy home, we have to leave. And we start by leaving for 2 weeks and come back. And 1 month, come back. 2 months, come back. And like gradually, and then when we come back, we realize, why do we come back at all? You know? And why having this whole big house? Let's just get rid of it. Let's sell it, you know? Yeah. So it's a gradual thing, but extricating ourselves from this cozy home. This is a pretty important aspect of vanaprastha life. And that's why Prabhupada says it should be done ideally around 50, plus minus. Not when we are 75, 80. Not when we are invalid. Then we can't leave the cozy home anymore. Right? When the body falls apart, we become too incapacitated. Then it's not the time for vanaprastha. No, 50. There is a whole quote where Prabhupada says, you know, we should not wait for invalidity. But with 50, as a rule, we still have some energy, some strength, some vitality, you know, and we can still do things, you know, yeah. So, leaving our cozy home, and there's all different options. Or if she is not much into traveling, then he goes off, and she can maybe stay in the temple somewhere, do some seva there. So then they come back again, you know, and meet for some time at home for 3-4 weeks or whatever. Or maybe she is more into traveling, he stays back, or he, you know, goes to another temple, serves there. I mean, any temple would be happy, you know, to have some additional devotees who are free to do things, you know, where they can share their life experience and maybe some material qualifications. And I mean, every temple will find a room and some prasadam for a person who wants to stay and serve for a month or something, right? Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, just imagine how much extra devotees we could have who can do things if this vanaprastha ashram is established. But because it's not established, we are missing out. You know, there's so many very highly qualified, experienced devotees, you know, still sitting in their houses, maintaining the houses, cutting the hedges and the grass and this and that, you know, all busy with that, rather than just simplifying their life, giving it up, renting it out, selling it, and, you know, doing more service, you know, yeah. Yeah, so simplifying our external surroundings, you know, that we free ourselves from so much stuff we accumulate during family life. I mean, on my travels, I stay often with devotees in their houses. My God, what people all accumulate. You know, so much stuff. The bigger the house is, the more it's filled up with all kinds of junk, you can say, you know. Yes, so a good start is just to clean up, get rid of things, throw it out, pass it on, sell it. It's liberating. Yeah, because our attachments to all these things, they all occupy some space in our mind, you know? And if we free ourselves from it, whew, it's liberating. There's more room for Krishna there, you know? Yes. So very, very practical. Even before people, you know, people's children are established in life, they can already gradually start cleaning out. Start with all the karmi books, get rid of them, no need anymore. And so much junk and knickknacks and porcelain cats and whatnot. You know, so just, yeah, clean out, get rid of it. And then also downsizing your living space. You know? Yes. Where was it? Just recently in US. I was just on a tour in US. I met a couple, they also sold their house, bought a mobile home. Good idea. Mobile home gives a little less space to accumulate stuff. You know, you're a bit more limited. And you're flexible, you can travel, preach, do so many things. You know, great idea, you know. So there's all different options, you know, to simplify your space and your living condition. And that also reduces your expenses, you know. Yes. So you imagine, you know, living in the forest, or Prabhupada says often, you know, vanaprastha means go to Vrindavan, the Vrindavan, you know, the forest in Vrindavan. So when you go to Vrindavan, unless you buy a whole big fancy place there, you will have a simple room, right? With a bed, a desk, a chair, some bathing place, maybe some little cooking thing. That's it, you know? No big fancy stuff. So you take the whole principle and you can apply it here. You just simplify your living space, you know? Yes, keep it completely simple. Then a second, and that also includes gradually to give up, you know, earning an income. I mean, it's a big topic, you know, I can't give the whole thing here in one session. Ideally, strictly speaking, the grihastas are meant to maintain not only the brahmacharis and sannyasis, but also the vanaprasthas, actually, you know. We are meant to live on donations, actually. But for that to really, you know, it hasn't really been established yet. And also the vanaprasthas really have to deliver the goods they're meant to give, you know. They're meant to actually serve as counselors, as mentors, because they have all this life experience, this whole wealth of life experience. So they are meant to reach out to the young generation and guide them and uplift them, you know. Our sannyasi diksha gurus, they're not meant to give guidance from family issues and all this. The vanaprasthas are meant to do this. But because that's not established, everybody runs to their sannyasi diksha guru with their family things, you know. But they're not even meant to deal with this, you know. Yeah. So that's the main contribution of the vanaprasthas, to serve in all different capacities and to guide and share their life experience, pass down the standards, the values, the knowledge, and you know. Yes. And then the second principle is simplifying our externals. So that is a pretty important thing, you know, especially for us ladies, because while we are married, we are meant to bring color and beauty into life. We are meant to make ourselves pretty and beautiful. And that inspires a man to be responsible and you know, yeah. But then, you know, in the renounce phase of life, in the vanaprastha ashram, we are meant to give up that bodily identification, you know, and we're meant to reduce, no more jewelry, no more bright, loud colors. We gradually go into more subdued colors, and vanaprastha wears white with a border, actually. Yeah. I've tried to inspire so many ladies in the West to wear white with a border, but so far I was not so successful. Yes, because many say, oh, I need some color in my life. Well, I also like color in my life, but it's nice for me to see it on others. I don't have to wear it, you know. So there's so much nice color in life, in nature, flowers, and nicely dressed ladies around and all that, but I don't have to wear it. So yeah, we do need color, but we don't have to wear it ourselves, you know. So it is a pretty important thing, which again is liberating. I mean, just for your information, I was married for 10 years, and I did look a little different then, you know. I did have hair and earrings and nose rings and bangles and beautiful saris. I've been through it all, yes. But then when my husband left, Krishna consciousness left me. I was only 40 at that time. But for me it was clear, yeah, no need for this man-woman thing anymore. And I went into white with a border. And then when I was 50, I put on white, you know. Yeah, so it should not just be some external fashion, but it requires an internal gradual cultivation. It has to feel right, you know, yes. But it is very liberating. It gets us off the bodily platform, even shaving your head. Oh, so nice, you know. One thing less to worry about. It's great. You know, yes, no more shampoos and conditioners and hair packs and this and that. And very nice. Or it doesn't have to be shaved. It can also be just really short haircut, you know, yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, in married life, see, vanaprastha is actually a team thing between husband and wife. I don't consider myself a vanaprastha because there is no more husband. I'm a widow. My husband is spiritually dead and gone. So I'm a widow. It's a slight difference there because there is no more husband. So widows wear completely white. Vanaprasthas still have a border. If a vanaprastha where the husband is still there, if she would wear completely white, that would be inauspicious. It would be seen like an omen that he would soon die or something, you know. Yes. But yeah, and vanaprasthas, they don't maybe shave. It's more the widows that shave. And you see it in India, in Bengal. There's so many widows in white, they're shaved. Some even have a shika. This is part of our culture. It's nothing weird or something. Yeah. So, and it's very liberating, you know, because, yeah, it frees the mind from all these mundane thoughts and attachments, and, it's great. It really is. And for the man also, they may not want to be so colorful, but often they also have their attachments, some flashy quarters or something, or flashy watches, or, you know, gadgets, or aftershave, or whatever, you know. So the men have their little attachments there where they can simplify, you know. Also attachment to name brands and all this, you know. Yeah. So the men are not free of that, you know. Yes. So yeah, simplifying our external appearance, and we include the gadgets also, the phones, and always the latest model, and just simplify, you know. And then the third aspect where we simplify, and many call that the most challenging one, is the eating. Yes, eating simply. And actually, you know, Krishna already pushes it, because an elderly body, the fire of digestion is not so good anymore. You know, you end up with all kinds of health issues. You know, when you're over 50, over 60, you can't have a whole plate of halava and pukoras and all this. You can't digest it anymore. You know, so actually Krishna arranges it all, that it becomes pretty natural to, eat more simple and less. And if we don't eat simple and less, then often we put on weight in old age, And then life becomes even more troublesome, because we don't burn up so much anymore and all that, Yeah, so there's heavy statements in the Bhagavatam also where Prabhupada says, if a person becomes overweight, it's a sign, there's one heavy purport where Prabhupada says, it's a sign that the person has not made any spiritual advancement. Yeah, heavy. And he says, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was severely chastising his fat disciples. Yes. It basically means we haven't gained a higher taste, right? And our main satisfaction is still from eating. Yes. So we have to conquer over this, So simplifying our eating, very important. Again, you imagine living in the forest, you're not going to have gulab jamuns and halava and pizza every day there, but it will be just simple, So like that, we extricate the underlying principles of forest life and apply them wherever we are, And then, of course, one foremost principle is also no more sex life, Yes. Yeah. And so many other little things like delegating, handing over, Bhagavatam is full of stories. King Yudhishthira, walked out, handed it over. So we should also do that and not hang onto our positions until we're 75 or 80, And then the next generation already is 50, so they already missed out, So we are meant to empower the young generation. And I guess, if I may say this community is a good example how lively it is when the young generation is empowered, isn't it? Yes, that attracts the youth, Yes, I observe all these things on my travels, and sometimes, I wish people would pass on and empower the young generation and let them take things further, Yes, this is an important part of vanaprastha. Yeah, we have to let go of these positions and move on. And if we don't do that, everything becomes stagnant. We become stagnant if we stick to the same position until the moment of death, And the whole community becomes stagnant, and the other devotees become stagnant because they can't move in and bring things forward. Yeah, everything becomes stagnant if we don't learn to pass on at the right time, which of course should not be, that we are irresponsible and we just leave our positions or something. No, we do it all under guidance, We have to take guidance, especially in vanaprastha cultivation. We have to work under guidance from somebody who's already a little more experienced on this path, Anyway, time is going. It's almost 1 o'clock. So let me see if we have some quick question before everybody is leaving here. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Recently we had a conference on ISKCON communications where one of the devotees' bio was read out, where he mentioned once he finished his family obligations, the kids were grown up.
Yeah.
He took a lot of responsibilities in ISKCON. And I wonder, the essence of vanaprastha is also to get more spiritually involved again. Maybe many devotees have done a lot of service in ISKCON, then they got into family life. Many times this means less service in ISKCON. That is maybe not just only traveling, but also even after 50 or more, to get more involved in the preaching mission.
Yeah.
The yajna and
Yeah.
service to the parampara.
Yeah.
What is your take on that? Otherwise you may think only pilgrimage, travel.
No.
He's a temple president now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
beautiful, a pillar of ISKCON Europe.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is so many versions. So many versions. But important is to get out of one's cozy home. You know? So, one can also, move into a little room in the temple. Simplify, simplify. Give up the comfy, cozy home. And we are meant to invite more austerity into our life. But yeah, when I'm saying giving up the positions, does not mean we don't do anything, we just sit and chant all day. No, we can move on to other positions. Yes. We can teach or preach, or if we haven't been a manager before, if we have the youthful spirit, we can take that up, or we can, guide others and let others do things also. And, so there's so many versions, so many versions. Because not everybody is a traveling preacher. No. So it's not that vanaprastha is only for people who travel and preach or something. You can be a dedicated pujari, or whatever your natures, your qualities, your experiences are, you can use them in Krishna service. Or you may have a highly professional life behind you, and all that professionality and professional expertise you can now use in ISKCON full time. That there is unlimited versions, but the underlying principles are that we simplify everything, our external surroundings, our appearance, our eating, all with the goal to deepen our absorption in service and chanting and hearing. Yes. And ultimately, chanting is a very important part, because that's what builds the relationship, is the chanting. And as we said, our relationship with Krishna, that's the only thing which we are allowed to keep. All our big achievements, they will be unimportant. As I shared, I had 2 times cancer, and I clearly realized this. All my big achievements, what I've all done, this service, that service, how many people know me in the world, and this and that, it doesn't matter anymore. Has no importance. Yes, the only thing we're allowed to keep is my relationship with Krishna. So ultimately, that has to be the essence, really, And I mean, we can say in the vanaprastha ashram, there's also stages, because if we take it around 50, we are still youthful, we do so many things, but then gradually, our body, our strength will reduce, will diminish. A vanaprastha also needs a base. Even sannyasis have a base. They all have a base where they come back. So vanaprasthas also need a base, because you can't forever live here, there. You have to have a base, and preferably in a community where we are well established, where we have relationships, where devotees are indebted to us, and then hopefully the care and association comes for this final part where, we are really preparing to get out. Yes. So it's a big topic. But I tried my very best to cover a lot of the things in this book, and it would simply be my greatest honor and joy if some of you will come to my book table. I've got so many other books there, also False Ego and so many other things, so All right, is there anything else? Do we have any other comments or questions?
Mataji, I will have some questions, might be a bit controversial. So
let's see if I want to answer. Yes.
The first one, not so much. You mentioned that in our movement in ISKCON, we don't have this culture of vanaprastha because it was not established. So
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Well, at this moment we don't have.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking about what we have now. So for grihastas who want to take a vanaprastha at 50, can you talk about maybe about the practical aspects of how they would maintain themselves while taking vanaprastha, traveling and so on, if there's no culture for maintaining them, especially for those coming from places where the pension or the salary is not so much to put put aside, and the retirement doesn't come, the pension, until you're 60 something.
Yeah. If a person actually, is qualified as a vanaprastha and actually can really make a valuable contribution, then the maintenance will come. Especially if we are ready to live super, super simple. Yes. The difficulty of maintaining is connected with our high expenses. That's the problem. And I mean, I don't know if I should use myself here as an example. But I mean, I've been living for 25 years out of a suitcase, and I never had a problem in maintaining myself because I don't have any expenses. I don't have a car. I don't even have a phone. I don't have a flat. I don't have any bills to pay. So then it's pretty easy to maintain yourself. And if you really try and please the devotees and uplift the devotees and serve them, then usually they respond by giving a donation. They do. So the main challenge in maintenance is because we still want to have a pretty comfy and fleshy lifestyle, But if we're actually willing to really live simple, having 3-4 saris. I mean, I live out of a suitcase for the last 20 years. So then there's not that much problem in maintaining yourself, because you don't have any bills, any expenses. The only expenses I have is my tickets, and I pay all my tickets up front. I never ask any temple to pay my ticket. Even if they're offered, I say, no, sorry, I like to book my own tickets and, and work things out. And it's my duty to accept a donation, Yeah. So, and it works. But also we have to be really willing to live simple, and we have to be willing to sacrifice ourselves in serving the devotees, Yes. And even if we are not a preacher or something, still we can sacrifice ourselves in service. And then people will reciprocate, But while we are not there yet in really establishing the whole ashram, I do advise people to be a little intelligent and have some financial planning. At this point, we have to, for most people, Yes, because it will take a few generations until we get there, but we have to start somewhere, right? Yes. So that's why I'm saying even young people should confront themselves with this whole vanaprastha topic, and understand what is it implicating and how important it is to let go of the family attachments so we can remember Krishna alone. That's the whole issue, Yes. So that's why it's a different topic, but that's why from a spiritual point of view, not recommended to be taken care of by family members. Not so good. Of course, if our parents are non-devotees, then it's very beneficial for them to be taken care of by us as devotees. I took care of both my parents and kept them at home, and I helped them to really live in a focused way. They had both an amazing departure, Yeah, even though they were not chanting Hare Krishna. But yeah, but for us devotees, not so recommended to be taken care of by the children or grandchildren, because so much more difficult to remember Krishna alone if you're surrounded by your dear and near and dear ones, Yes. Yeah, so all these things have to be taken in consideration, But yeah, that's why it's wise to make some plans, If we have some property, okay, we can either sell it and buy something in the Holy Dham, have that as a little base, sometimes come here, do some service and go back to the Holy Dham. Or we can rent it out and generate some little passive income like that, Or there's so many different options. So we have to think, But the main thing is that we have to reduce our expenses by living simply. And then it will not be such a challenge, It will not, Yes. Or maybe the kids can, help give some little financial support once they're established in life. Because for so many years the parents were financing the kids. So now it's maybe their turn, and they can give a couple €100 a month. And that can already be a major help, if you lead a simple life. You don't need much, Yes. But yeah, it's a whole gradual thing which has to be well thought out, well planned, under guidance. We have to ask more experienced devotees for guidance in these things, because we may not see, and we may, passionately make some wrong decisions or something, get rid of everything, vanaprastha, not passionately jump into it, but take guidance and be thoughtful, Yes. All right, maybe we'll leave it at that. We've talked for 2 hours. That's enough. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaura Premanandi, Hare Hare Krishna.